Hi everyone, this is Roj from Lifestyle Mastery, and today I'm excited to have Ajith Govind, who's the founder of Crave, which is an online marketplace to book a home chef to visit and cook right in your kitchen. He earlier co-founded Turing Labs, which has achieved Series A funding and backed by Y Combinator and top investors. Welcome to the show, Ajit.
Thanks, Rohit. Thanks for having me on. It's an honor.
Awesome. So, you have an interesting journey. You've been all across the world now, but before we talk about Crave, what caught you in this crazy world of startups?
Yeah, I've always wanted to, be an entrepreneur. And even when I was a kid, I remember having this discussion with my grandfather saying that I want to be a businessman, and not knowing what a businessman meant at that point of time.
Right.
And I come from a family of, doctors and engineers, and my grandfather was not happy about my choice. So, but still, I did go on to become an engineer, computer science engineer. And then I've always wanted to get into this world of entrepreneurship. It's been fascinating to me. The reason is that the impact that people create, right? It's about truly changing in a positive way. And when I'm like after 50, 60 years, 70 years, I want to look back and say that yes, I made significant positive impact in this world, right? So that's the key thing what I want to achieve with entrepreneurship. So yeah.
Interesting, and you built a Turing Labs, and just wanted to know how was the experience. You also got into Y Combinator, but let's talk about your experience with Dexter and Turing Labs. What was your
Yeah,
learning
yeah.
experience over there?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first company was Dextro Analytics. Basically, it was an AI ML consulting. First time founder, um, literally had no clue what we were doing for the first two,
Okay.
3 years. We were trying to figure out what is this, how does this work, and uh, we didn't take a salary for about 3 to 4 years. It was very hard.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, so my wife supported me in that. She was extremely helpful in that way, and emotionally as well. So in the first 4 years that happened, then this evolved as we kept speaking to companies. We realized that CPGs have this very acute problem of launching to market. It takes about 18 months, 20 to 24 months for a brand like, let's say, a Dove soap or an Axe deodorant or any sort of CPG product. It takes a long time because the testing is iterative. It is a lot of failure that happens in those testing, and then it just breaks down. So we
Right.
realized that, and as soon as we realized that, we said that okay, let's build a SaaS, AI SaaS, B2B SaaS, which addresses this problem. And the great news is that all the CPGs at that point of time were going through this transformation of digital transformation where they were starting to get the data. So that is a
Right.
great news for us. So we started doing that. And yeah, that was the idea that got us into Y Combinator. And I think that was a big turning point. I still remember preparing for the application and the interview. And the funniest part was we did like so much preparation. Like we probably prepared 500 questions.
Wow.
And the first question was, okay, what do you do? Which my co-founder explained. But right after that, everything was out of syllabus. Like zero was leading. We had nothing to prep. And the thing is, we knew the business in and out, right? So that's the reason. It was rapid fire and we got in. So that was like really great. From there, and again, this was the time of March 2020.
Yeah.
And you know what happened in March 2020? COVID
Right.
hit, and we had no choice but to build that company completely remotely, right?
Mm.
So we had to do that. Um, Luckily, we found our founding engineer Avinash, who joined just right after we raised our seed after YC, and he actually built the product end to end. And that's where we started forming the bond that we have. And Avinash and I go way back. We are batchmates back from our university.
Nice.
So yeah, the journey with Turing was overall it was amazing, right? We raised a Series A. At one point of time, we were working with 15 of the top 20 CPGs,
Right.
uh, and tremendous exposure. I can happily say that we impacted literally millions of people's
Mm.
lives using these products. So yeah, overall it was an amazing journey.
Interesting. You mentioned about 500 questions. In fact, I had applied for Y Combinator. I didn't even get an interview, right? But how was the experience with Y Combinator? Because I think when you got through, this was all remote, or did you have to go to San Francisco for it?
Yeah. No, so we went to San Francisco. So I think we are the most unique batch in YC ever, like in the history of YC, because we are the only batch which had 2 months in person, which was like a regular YC batch.
Right.
And the last few weeks, like 2 to 3 weeks, were completely online, which was unheard of for a YC batch at that point of time. So
Yeah.
they were also navigating this, right? So
True.
yeah, overall the experience was, I would say, life changing. The first day in YC was sitting right in front of Brian Chesky, CEO of Airbnb, talking about his experiences, and my mind was blown,
Mhm.
obviously.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just about meeting fantastic people, like the top 0.001% people, entrepreneurs in the world, getting to know them, getting to understand what makes them tick, what makes them successful. That is all YC is all about, right? How do you make successful companies, and how do you find product market fit?
Right.
So that experience was great. It's just that in the end, because COVID hit, we didn't have a traditional demo day, right? So
Oh, okay.
that is the sad part that happened with our batch specifically, because our dream was always to go on the stage,
True.
have like that demo done with like multiple thousands of investors watching. There is a different energy in that,
Mm.
and unfortunately we couldn't do that. So yeah, but overall it was amazing. And YC is for life, right? Once you get into YC, you're part of that community forever. I just attended a YC event in San Francisco. So yeah, it's been a great experience.
So super interesting, and before the call, I also mentioned I'm also an on deck fellow, but this is more like a podcast and video fellowship. But
Yeah, yeah.
how's the experience with on deck? Is the founder experience?
Yeah.
How's the board like for there?
The on deck experience for me was it was phenomenal. It was mind
Nice.
blowing. And the reason why I think it was because I actually missed that in-person element of, the community and the entrepreneurship and everything.
Right.
And to be, it gave it so much more value and impetus because of those COVID years where we actually didn't meet anybody, like, at
Yeah.
all. Yeah. So this was the first time after 4 or 5 years where we were in a place where there were like multiple founders, of course investors, and like there's this huge community which comes together, and there is something magical that happens when exceptional people come together and they have like a similar goal of like either building a startup or doing something similar. uh, there is a magic that gets created, and ODF 22, which just happened like a couple of weeks back, that magic was definitely there. I could feel it. And uh, we we are definitely going to be connected for life. I'm still talking to like lots of our batchmates on a daily basis to help them. They help me.
Nice.
It's an extremely helpful community for sure.
Interesting. And obviously before the call, I mentioned I've been part of two marketplaces. One was a travel marketplace and a student accommodation marketplace. But when it comes to Crave, I really like the concept. For people who are listening to this podcast for the first time, what led you to start Craved, and why this focus on chefs?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So the stories for Crave, there are two parts to this, right? Obviously, the first part, which I would say, anytime you want to start a startup,
Yeah.
okay, ideas are hard, right? Like it's difficult to get the right ideas.
True.
Execution is even harder. Like, okay, you have to execute it really well. But again, the hardest thing is to be in the timing and the luck, and there's a lot of luck involved in startups, right? There's no question
True.
about it. So all of that is involved, but I feel that all this becomes so much more easier if you have the right co-founder with you. So that is, I would say, like 90% of why Crave started. It's actually the reason that uh, Avinash and I bonded in a way where it was so obvious that we have to be co-founders. We were like really great friends in college, but we like got out of touch for about 8 years, right? So
Right.
luckily, I was able to convince him to join back Turing. At
Right.
that point of time, we immediately knew that there was some magic in our relationship, and we became dads. So we became dads about a couple of years back, and that's when both of us were just discussing that, hey, it's so hard to find home cooked meals, right? And we
Mm.
have a family of like 3 people, 4 people, and we have a baby now. It's very hard to for somebody in the house to make the food on a regular basis
True.
for the entire household. It's extremely difficult, right? Like there's a lot of grocery to be bought, and then there's cooking which takes at least 2 or 3 hours a day, and then there's the cleanup which I usually have to do. That's again 1 and 2 hours. I hate that part.
Yeah.
So it was really difficult, and we started looking at multiple options out there, right? We said, okay, hey, let's talk to restaurants. Let's ask them to give like healthy meals, right? So we did that.
Right.
Didn't work. Nothing healthy ever came out of a restaurant, in my opinion. It's very hard, right? Or you have to
True.
go to like really, you can't eat on a daily basis, basically. So that's what it is. Like I love restaurants, not to get me wrong. I love eating out. It's
Yeah.
just that I can't do it every single day, right? That is
Yeah.
the challenge. So that was the first thing. The second was we tried meal kits. Even was option in my mind because you have to basically cook for like 1 hour or 2 hours and then do the cleanup. It's basically the same thing. It's just that you're saving some time to get the groceries. But again, the cost of the meal kit is actually incredibly expensive, like which
Mm.
we have looked at, right? And the portions are not great. Like so, there's a lot of issues there with the meal kits as well. And we said, okay, hey, we have to find another option. We went to Facebook Marketplace. We
Okay.
started looking at getting some people who would come and cook in the house. Right? That's how this idea actually started. And we did find, folks who would come, cook, and clean up as well. And
Right.
that solved the problem. So that was the turning point. That solved the problem for us. But during that process, we realized that there is so much friction, right? You have to find the right person, you have to match with the right person. It's an iterative process, right? Then you have to find out, okay, what time are they coming? Is there any change to that schedule? What's the menu look like? What kind of ingredients are needed? How do I pay you? When do I pay you? How much do I pay you? There's a lot of friction there, and same thing from the home chef side as well, right? Like think about from the home chef side that, okay, I have like 5 customers now to find out when they would be available, what they're going to eat, how do I prepare for this session, which
Right.
ingredients should I buy, am I getting paid? So there's like so many things, and basically clicked an idea in our mind that this is exactly like calling a cab before Uber was there.
Yeah.
And we came to that conclusion that this is basically a tech platform
Mm.
which can help you to hire home chefs who will come cook, but also
Right.
take care of groceries. But also, it's like an AI assistant, right? AI
Mm.
assistant to help the home chefs to run their operations more efficiently. So
Mm.
that was the seed of how Cravd started, right? So yeah.
Interesting, because I would love to have a chef or a cook to come in and make food, but whenever you search, you'll find like like a chef who can cook for 10 people, like a dinner, like a
Yep.
Michelin star or something like that. But
Yes.
uh, but yeah, this is something which you're building with quite interesting. And you started off in Toronto, so was it a conscious decision to focus from Toronto? And what's how do you did are you also looking to launch in Bay Area? So how do you
Yeah.
get to decide where do you get to launch next?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So the thing is, for us, Toronto launch was the easiest option,
Mm.
right? Like I was right here.
Right.
And for us, the ecosystem was pretty easy because we already started getting like requests that, hey, can you send somebody? We love the food. So we just started with like a single home chef, right?
Okay.
Once that person started going to places, they started saying, hey, can you also send that person like other houses? So every person who has been on the platform has come through some sort of word of mouth, right? We have not done any ads, we have not done any marketing, which
Right.
is why we are so excited about this idea as well, because it's been completely word of mouth. Our CAC as of today is zero,
Mm.
right? And the thing that we realized is we started again with delivery, right? We said that, okay, let's do a delivery model where we'll start sending the food, and very quickly we realized that there's huge pains with that, right? Like basically people don't want to trust an external home chef kitchen hygiene. they
Mm.
don't they don't know which ingredients are being used. They want to use
Right.
their own ingredients, right? they want to make sure that the portion sizes are appropriate. Like it's for 4 people, then that's great. I don't want to like order or portions of pasta versus like getting one custom portion of pasta. There's a
Right.
lot of cost involved in that. So we started realizing all that. We started sending the home chefs, and we never looked back, right? So that's the realization that happened of how the business model happened. And again, you're very right. There are adjacent markets, right? Like there's
Right.
a events market where okay, you have like your son's birthday party,
Yeah.
you can find home chefs, and then there's like a indulgent meal on a Friday or Saturday night. But those are still, I would say, like little bit smaller. I would say the biggest piece is this one week in day out weekly meals, which is on complete subscription because people want this every day, almost like every day, right? So that's what it is.
Correct. And you looking to move to Bay Area. So how do you look at, which cities to expand into? I was very early into Hyber and Oyo, where you just
Yeah.
started from one city. But what's your thesis behind expansion?
Yeah, so the thesis right now, Rohit, is that we just want to be in 2 cities for the next 6 to 9 months, right?
Okay.
So if you think about how we want to build this, there are two options, right? One is we could just hire like 10 people, operations managers, put
Right.
them in 10 cities and say, hey, just start building this very manually, right? It's possible, right? There's nothing impossible with that. And the other option is we build like a world-class product platform solution for the next 6 to 9 months, where we know that 90% of the value that customers and home chefs get is from the platform.
Yeah.
And we are able to run that with almost any operations person should be able to run that playbook with the product. That's our objective, right? So and that's how we want to scale. So we want to think of it like a platform like Uber versus running it manually like a small business. So that's the difference in the thinking process that we are trying to get to. Now the market, specifically Toronto, yes, I told you it's very obvious that
Mm.
why we are here, because I'm here. The Bay Area is also actually very obvious because of couple of reasons, right? I have very strong networks in the Bay Area, especially from my YC and other networks. Avinash has very strong friends networks and family networks in the Bay Area.
Nice.
So we actually already have like a ton of people on the wait list in the Bay Area. We already have customers, right? Who would
Nice.
just say, okay, here's the money, right? That's the first thing. The second thing that we are hoping for is that the valley is a place where all these companies, the amazing companies were built, and there's a reason for that, right? The best talent is there, the best ecosystem is there, the best investors are there,
True.
best accelerators are there. And we want to be in that ecosystem where we have a much higher chance of success. And I strongly believe that SF basically gives you at least 30 to 40% improved chances of success than anywhere else if you're a tech startup, right? So
Yeah.
that's the hypothesis that we have on the SF launch. Yeah.
Correct. Super, super interesting. And I know it's very early days for you, but what's the single most important metric for you? What do you look for when
Yeah.
you're trying to scale up? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we basically are always looking at GMV, right? So gross merchandise value, that's our primary metric. The way that we think about this is there are sub metrics, right? So GMV is obviously your metric which you want to keep growing like 50. We have been growing 50% month over month. We just crossed 18,000 GMV on monthly subscriptions, right? So
Right.
that's been great. But we have to figure out what are those sub metrics, and that's something that we're working on, right? We know that retention is a very important
Mm.
metric that impacts GMV. We know that new customers in are like a big metric that impacts GMV. So
Mm.
we're trying to keep it simple as of
Yeah.
now, without trying to go like extremely deep into all the metrics and CAC and like all those things, because for us right now, at least for the next 6 months, it's all about learning, right? It's about understanding what actually works. How can we implement this in the product? So that's the main objective. So yeah.
Correct. And when it comes to your early customers, are they double income couples or their families or single people? What's the e-learning over there?
Yeah, I would say about 50% are busy families who both working, a double
Okay.
income, who have some disposable income, right? May or may not have kids. I would
Oh,
say like 50 to 60% of them are in that profile.
Okay.
There are definitely people who are single as well. I would say like 10 to 20% who are using this. They are more affluent. They have the the real need that they want to be in shape, or they want to like work out. Like they'll have a specific dietary preference. So that's definitely another kind of demographic. What we are also seeing interestingly is that there are a set of bachelors who share this. So you think of it like a hacker house in the Bay Area, in the Valley. We have heard
Yeah.
this, that, oh yeah, hacker houses will use this, right?
Mm,
So
interesting.
that's but I would say, if you had me to pick, I would just say it's busy families, working families with disposable income, they who don't
Right.
have any time or energy to cook on a daily basis, right? So that's like a
Correct.
ideal customer profile. So yeah.
Correct. And as I mentioned earlier, I've been both on the demand and supply side of the marketplace,
Yeah.
but it's always a chicken egg situation. But what came first? Was it supply or demand?
For us, supply came first,
Yeah.
because I don't think you can have this particular business without supply, right? Supply is everything, right? I mean, your
Yeah.
home chefs are so important. They actually decide your retention, they decide your growth, they decide your brand value, everything, right?
Sure.
Home chefs are the people who are there. Like, home chef is the company. When the person goes to the customer's house, Craved is the home chef. So that's very important. We want to really focus on making sure that home chefs are empowered through this platform.
Right.
um, and we are also giving them a lot of value, because every home chef is now like getting some sort of like a meaningful income, right? They are seeing that, okay, I have like 4 or 5 customers, I'm earning like X amount of dollars, and it's almost like a monthly salary, right? It's a predictable monthly income that they have.
Correct.
And that is the very big differentiation from any other platform, I think, that home chefs look at, because they've been part of many other platforms, right? They've been part of delivery platforms, they've been part of like catering. And the challenge is, they cannot predict. They don't know what is going to happen in the month of September. Like, they have no idea, right?
Correct.
It could be like 500, could be like 5,000, and it's very hard to plan your life in that kind of a scenario.
Right.
Versus for us, when they are with us, they are like, okay, yeah, I'm going to get like $4,000. That's great. Now, that is a base, right? Now, always they get event requests, they get like other party requests, they get requests like, can you make this specifically? So there is an additional upside as well, but we are not really focusing on that yet from the platform side. So yeah.
Correct. And Ajit, do you also look at training the home chefs so that they're trained to be like a craved yeah home
Yeah,
chef?
it's a great question. Not yet. It's still
Okay.
very early days, but the thought has definitely crossed our minds. It is something that we might do. Now, what is also happening on the supply side is that we are finding that culinary schools are a huge, huge source of home chefs. So
Mm,
they are students who love to cook. They are passionate. They have got some skills after like 1 year of being in the culinary school,
okay.
and they have time. They want to earn money to pay off their tuition. They are just new in the country,
Mm,
and they are actually perfect supply for us almost, because they have all those skills. Everything is there, and they are like professional. They are great. They're already trained. So that's something that we are looking at, about how can we tie up with these schools. How can we make sure that they are of a specific maybe certify them, right? So
yeah.
that's something that we are thinking about. But again, still early days, Rohit. We haven't really
Yeah.
gone there yet. So yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, I really like this idea about getting the cooks from there, because in my mind I was thinking it's more like housewives who do this part time,
Yeah.
but that's a great way to multiply your supply. And
Yeah.
when it comes to marketplaces, how can founders be strategic in building moats around their business? And how do you look at building that defensibility in your marketplace?
It's a great question. I'm also still learning this, because I'm new to marketplaces for the last 6 months. What I've realized is a couple of things, right? One is, see, in marketplaces, the highest form of truth is that you have to give enough revenue to the supply side, so
Mm,
that they are happy.
true.
I think that is the core of it. Like, that's where it starts, right? If you're giving enough revenue to all the supply that you have, I think you'll be in a good place, right? So that's, and again, I got this. insight from Mike, who runs everything marketplaces. It's been
Mm.
an extremely amazing platform for us. I highly recommend that to every marketplace founder out there to be part of that community. Extremely helpful for everybody. I think there are two things as well. We want to build a very strong platform. I think that is our moat, right? Our
Right.
moat has to be something where it's like an AI assistant for home chefs to run their business. And on the other hand, for customers, it has to be like a very simple product where everything works. You don't have to worry about any of the logistics or, the management, and everything works and you have the food cooked in the way that you love, right?
Right.
So that's our moat. The product, I think, is the biggest moat in my mind. The second thing is the network effects, right? So once you start those flywheel and like network effects, okay, you add like 50 supply people like home chefs from the culinary schools,
True.
and then they start getting all these customers, and the customers bring more customers, and then there's a next batch of people come in. So it becomes a unstoppable kind of a thing where then I think it's really hard for competition to come in and start disrupting that. Especially our take rate is only 10%, right? We are uh, very particular that we want to keep it around that. The reason is that we've seen highly predatory marketplaces, right? I was just talking to somebody who said that a third of the home chef's revenue just goes as a fee. So basically, if somebody is like doing uh X number, let's say $150, home chef
Right.
gets $50, groceries $50, and the platform gets $50. It's just like the platform is earning the same as you, and that's so bad. Like that is terrible, right? Like
Correct.
we don't want to be that kind of a platform. We want to be fair, and we are building this for the long term, right? We want to be long term greedy versus short term greedy.
Mm.
So that is something that we are very particular about. So as long as we build like an amazing product, and we have those network effects kicking in, I think it's going to be very hard for any competitor to take us out. So yeah.
Correct. Yeah. No, absolutely makes sense. And what's been your biggest lesson when it comes to crafting that messaging for uh, to resonate with the target audience? Any lessons for you there?
The lesson is that you have to talk to the users every day. That's the lesson, right? So the day we started Crave, I have a task where basically in my task list where I have to talk to at least 3 to 5 users every single day, either home
Mm.
chefs or customers, right?
Right.
And the messaging changes every day, actually, right?
Mm.
So it's not something that you make and then you go and do it for a month and you come back and then you change it. It's not that way, right? Almost every conversation improves messaging, I feel.
Right.
So if you have like 100 conversations in a week, your messaging actually should be very different from what it was in the beginning of the week. And in the early stages, it's all about finding out what works, right? Nobody is going to find that like in the first day. Like it's going to be, I mean, difficult, right? Like it's going to be miraculous if somebody does. But we know, right? Like people started talking about, oh, we don't have time, we don't have energy to cook. Home chefs started saying we don't know how much revenue we're making. So everything that I'm talking about is basically insights from hundreds of people, both from the home chefs and customer side. So I would say that is the number one thing that founders should do. And again, this is what YC says as well. It's not just me.
Mm.
So I think just definitely follow the YC advice. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally get it. And you talked about retention. So what's a sign of a truly retained user for Crave?
So sign of a truly retained user is that they keep subscribing monthly. That is how we are looking at retention. Nowadays, we have also started tracking expansion, where some of those, I would say like 30% of customers, they started with one session in the week, right? So sometimes it's 2 sessions in the week that they started with.
Right.
But as time went, they started realizing that, hey, we should actually do it like 3 times a week, then
Mm.
4 times a week, 5 times a week. So they see the value in it, right? So they're able to see that, okay, we actually are able to save tons of money on the grocery pickup. We are able to save money by not eating out.
Right.
And end of the day, we are eating healthy food, which is uh, which is portioned, right? It's not like you're eating just mindlessly. You're eating very mindfully. And it's being made for multiple people in the house where, okay, I like spicy food, somebody doesn't like spicy food, so it's made in different variations. So then they start like, oh, you know what? It's actually okay to spend another $500. Let's expand this. So that is something interesting that is happening. So that's the way we are looking at retention. But again, very simply, we're just looking at how many people are renewing every month, every single month. That's yeah.
Correct. And Ajit, you built Turing Labs, and now you are building Crave. Wha- What do you look for somebody when you're looking to hire? I know you're looking to hire, part of your founding team. Are you looking for somebody
Yeah.
who's an expertise in their domain, or there's somebody who is experienced, or young or hungry to learn?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think the most important part of hiring like early people, and I think I had this big realization in Turing as well, is that you need people who have the startup mindset, right? You need them to know that okay, this is not a large company where everything is so clear and set. There will be changes. It's going to
True.
be rapid. Iterations are going to happen on a daily basis.
Mm,
Uh, so I would say the number one thing that we look for is speed, right? We're looking for how fast this person go, and how quickly can things happen, right? That is extremely important. Of course, some background expertise would be awesome, right? Like that is something that really helps. I think somebody from market who have like done marketplaces would be amazing.
mm,
uh, Definitely that's great. Also, on the other hand, I don't think it is extremely important to have the best experience, because end of the day, it's a new domain marketplace. There's going to be new learnings. Sometimes I also feel that people who have done it for like 10 years, 15 years, they it's hard to unlearn many things.
yeah,
Like I've spoken to people who have done delivery for like 5, 10 years in that delivery marketplaces,
true.
and they keep tending going back to delivery, and I'm like, no, we're not doing delivery.
Yeah,
That's like a complete world of pain, right?
yeah.
So yeah, that's what we look for essentially. Yeah.
Interesting. It reminded me of one conversation with Ritesh from Oyo, where he made sure nobody from the hotel industry came in because he wanted a different
Yeah,
perspective.
very
Uh,
true. It's very true. And you have to protect that. Like that's the key thing, right? And this is one of the sessions in On Deck Founders where the CEO of Intercom, Owen, and he came in, and he had this very strong thing that founders should protect that extreme mindset that they have, extreme thought and extreme vision that they have. They should
right.
not dilute that, right? That is very important, and I truly believe in that, because otherwise you don't know where you're going, right? So
Right.
you have to be very clear that this is the direction we want to go, this is the direction we don't want to go. And again, when we hire, one of the earliest things that me and Avinash did is, even before creating Crave, right, or even before the idea, we set out um, cultural things that the company should have, like foundational cultural aspects, right? So we have like four of them where we say, okay, we are building a great product. That is the best thing about this. Like we are a product focused company. We will make sure that we don't cut corners in building product. It's a high performance sports team. We're not a family, right? We are not
Mm,
like going to say we are a family and stuff. We're going to be very clear that this is a merit based environment where you do great, you get great stuff, and you don't do great, you will have to like leave, right? That's very
yeah.
clear. So it's a high performance sports team, and we of course help each other and everything. And there are like a couple of more. So we have like very strong, feelings about how the culture has to be built. We are very particular that we want to build a culture which is really strong from day one. So that is something that we are looking for in employees as well, whether there's a fit and a match to that.
Got it. And yeah, since you're building Turing, you're forced to be in remote. But what are your thoughts on remote versus being in office now?
Yeah, it's a very, very good question. Literally everybody is struggling with this question in my mind. So me and Avinash, we want to be in person, right? That's very clear. We want to be
Okay.
in person either in the Bay Area or, of course, ideally in the Bay Area, right? Or until we are there, maybe we will be in Dallas or Toronto, right? So Avinash keeps coming here, I keep flying to Dallas.
Oh, okay.
And within a few weeks, 1 or 2 months, we want to launch in the Bay Area. We both want to be there. Now, of course, moving the families there is going to be hard,
Mm,
and not as quick, right? Sometime maybe next year. So that's our thought process about being in person with founders, because I feel that that is extremely important.
True.
Um, Now the company as such, I think we want to build a remote company, right? We want to
Okay.
build, especially on the tech side. So we believe that tech talent can be there anywhere, right? We don't want to restrict that, saying that we have to be in person. And there are huge benefits of doing that, because we want to build an async culture
Right.
in terms of building the product. We are using products like Basecamp. We're very particular about documenting everything. We want to have that, history. So yeah, we already, just actually we're onboarding our very first employee, and design lead designer from Asia.
Oh,
So that's on Monday. So that's like our first tech hire, I would say.
okay.
Yeah. So that's the way we're thinking about it.
Correct. And when it comes to, building product, what's your biggest advice to founders who would want to create and moments of delight in their product?
Yeah, I think the biggest advice about building product is launch yesterday. That is the first thing, right? Like,
Right.
in Turing, we made this huge mistake. We just kept delaying that product development for like probably years, and we just kept saying, okay, here's the grand vision, here's a grand strategy, and here's like the workflow end to end, and
Mm.
everything imaginary, right, in our minds, and we didn't launch quickly and iterate quickly enough. uh, and I would say that that is the single biggest mistake, because once you launch, once you put something in the user's hands, you have feedback, you have real feedback. Go back, change that, iterate that, come back to them very next day, or ideally like as soon as possible.
True.
Do the next iteration, right? That is, I would say, the biggest thing that can build moments of delight, because at some point of time in that journey, in those iterations, you will find those moments of delight. And like, example for us is, we said that, hey, you know what, one of the challenges, one of the friction is, what do you eat in this week, right? What can the home chef make for me,
Right.
the menu? And that's a big question. And initially, I used to ask the home chef, hey, what can you make for this customer for this week? And the customer would say, I want this, and the home chef would say, I can't make this, I can make this. Like, so there's like a lot of back and forth, right? So it
Right.
does to take like half my day. And then I had this idea that, hey, let's just go to Chat GPT and ask, few preferences. So I started coming up with some menus and started giving that to the customers. They used to love
Mm.
that. Even that became like a hectic task, because like you have to run it all, like many people all day. So then
True.
finally we said, hey, let's build a prototype in the product for a AI menu advisor. So we finally built that, and now customers are using that to come up with menus on both sides and collaborate and everything. So that moment of magic comes through multiple iterations of learning about exactly what gives value to the user. And I actually think it's only possible if you do those quick iterations, right?
Mm.
Otherwise, you never get to that. And that's what happens with, I would say, like 90% of the products.
Mm. Interesting. And is simplicity always best in product, or do you think, when should be made more complex for the user?
Yeah, it's a very loaded question. It really depends on the industry, right? So if you're building something for biotech, and if you're building for like let's say like it's on the risk side of things, right? Like,
Right.
okay, if I'm building like a nuclear weapon or something like that, it has to be like highly sophisticated, and like the risk has to be like as close to zero as possible.
Right.
But let's say something like, uh, you know, so any other online B2C consumer product, I think the risks are lower. Like, okay, like how much wrong can the menu advisor go? Like, maximum worst case, they don't like the dish, and they'll just say, okay, I need another dish, or
Right.
something like that, right? The risks are not that high. And again, you have to expect your early customers to accommodate that. Your early customers have to be early adopters whose uh, pain is so much that they're ready to take even like half-baked product, right? So
No.
those are the customers that you should work with. So yeah, I think simplicity is great in my opinion, but again, it really depends on the industry. So yeah.
Right. Right. Got it. And Ajay, I quickly want to do the top three. What's your favorite business book?
Favorite business book, actually I have two of them. One is The Lead Startup by Eric Ries. And Eric Ries actually is an investor in Turing, so I really admire that entire philosophy of how should we build a company and product, of course. The second one is The Hard Thing About Hard Things, which is
Yeah.
by Ben Horowitz. And yeah, I love both the books. So yeah.
Gaurav will put that in show notes. And, if you could go back in time, I know it's very early for at Crave, but if you could
Yeah.
go back in time when you started at Turing, what is the one thing you would have focused on or done things differently?
Um, I would have definitely focused on culture. I think that is the one thing that um, all founders need to do. And I know it sounds very weird to do. It's actually awkward, right? And like founders don't get this. I didn't get this in the very early days. That why is it that so important? And after like being 8 9 years an entrepreneur, I completely know why that is so important. It's because culture creates uh that environment for people, and people are your company essentially. It's a very simple equation, right? End of the day, culture is your company. So and everything else depends on there's a saying from Brian Chesky that says culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yeah.
You can have like great grand plans, right? But it's all completely useless if your culture is bad. So
Right, right.
I completely believe in that. So yeah.
Correct, correct. Interesting. And do you have any favorite online tool, for example, Gmail, Slack, Zoom?
I have an online tool which I use on a daily basis very religiously. It's called Sunsummer. It's a task management system where it I can organize my day, and I basically have very clear tasks. What do I do? My free time and everything. So I'm very particular to use that almost every day. It's been really helpful to organize because as an entrepreneur, your life is extremely chaotic. So as much structure and order and calm you can bring to the day, that is very important. So yeah.
Got it. We'll put that in show notes. And Ajit, what's the best way people can reach out to you and know more about Craved?
Yeah, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I can share my email. It's Ajith at crave.com. That is, though I would say those are the two. And of course, I'm on X as well. So yeah.
Got it. We'll put that in show notes, Ajit. Thank you so much for taking your time and speaking to us. I really enjoyed my conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Robert. I really appreciate the time.